Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of the Nerdy Things podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, joined as always by the other hosts, Jules. Hey, Jules, how are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good.
Good. And Tim, how are you today?
Wonderful. Good morning, gentlemen.
Another early morning.
Earlier than normal.
Me. Yeah, we figured that one out.
And I have no coffee this morning.
Ugh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to start it off and thank everybody for listening to our podcast and getting back to us. We got a lot of replies, a lot of people interacting with us over at Nerdy Things Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we have a few reviews on our iTunes podcast page. So I'm going to go ahead and read one pretty much every week until we run out. I think that's a good thing that we can do. So I'm going to read one right now by Love Road. It says, I had no idea. Didn't know there could be a show about this kind of stuff. Incredible variety, and somehow I find this show super funny too. So thank you for leaving us a review. It really helps us get new subscribers and people find us. We're like at the front of the page sometimes if you look up certain things, and that really helps us get new listeners and new people in the discussion and talking about nerdy stuff.
That's
so
fantastic.
If you want to do that, and you listen to us on iTunes, just go to our just search us up, and you can go to reviews right next to details and write a review. Leave us 1 through 5 stars, whatever. If you leave a review, we'll go ahead and read it on the show.
Preferably 5 stars, but I'm not going to hold it against you.
Yeah. 5 stars would be great. Yeah, I love that we have reviews and interaction and stuff like that. We actually had a fan, William, on Twitter, who tweeted at us a lot. And thanks, William. And William is pissed at me because he's the dude who I told to suck it up and go to the movies by himself. And he still listens to the show. And I was telling Kevin yesterday, next to my wife like agreeing to marry me, somebody who's pissed off at me still listening to the show, that's the second greatest compliment I've ever received. So thank you for listening, because it's kind of my goal is to really piss people off and still have them want to listen. Like,
right, you want them so riled up that they're going to come back and fight.
Yeah, so thanks, William. Awesome.
And he did have one tweet. He said he is 6'3", and he generally sits in the front seat of an Uber as well. So he is my best friend now.
Well, I'm 5'7", and if I piss you off again, bring it on, big guy.
Yeah, at 6'3", I'm not sure he has a choice but to sit in the front, though.
Yeah, he says it's more comfortable. I'm 6'1". I mean, that's what. Yeah, I never thought about it. Maybe subconsciously, yeah, it's more comfortable.
Oh, so fine, all right, fair enough.
You know, me and William are friends now. So.
I prefer being shorter. I get so much more leg room that way.
Hashtag tall guy problems. I got leg room everywhere, man. I sit in a baby stroller and I got leg room.
You do look like a baby with a beard.
Wow.
A much shorter beard this week, though. A much shorter beard this week. I had an incident last week. So.
Oh, what's that?
Well, I grow my beard out during the winter. I always did it for like November and then kind of shaved it off. My wife really likes it like really longer, which was surprising to me. So last like 2 years, I've always just kind of kept it growing till, April, May, depending on when the weather gets warm. This year, it was just getting really long. So I trimmed it down probably last month because I just didn't want to comb it one morning. But I used the longest setting on my clipper, which is in this case setting 20, which is still a pretty decent length beard. But I always trim the mustache shorter so it's not hanging over my mouth and then up on the sideburns too. Kind of shape it out, make it look good. That's what I want.
Manscaping.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'm no shame in the game. So I the other day, I trimmed the beard all down to the 20. I trimmed the sideburns down to, and I think I'm at an 8 up at the top. And then I'm trimming the mustache. And I dropped the trimmer into the sink. And I picked it up and never thought anything of it. And I take one swipe of my mustache. And it was down to a 2.
Oh.
Which is as short as I ever go. Like, that's my summer, like, close cut,
Your summer look.
Yeah, like, close as I ever go. But, the reason why I grow a beard typically is I don't have a really strong jawline. So especially when I'm a little heavier than normal, which I, still haven't lost my winter weight this year. That's why I like to keep it a little bit longer. So
You make it seem like you're such a different person from winter to summer. So
No,
if I met
he
you, you'll
really
be like,
is.
yes, totally different dude. In the
It's like
winter, I
he's
gain
not
20
kidding.
pounds to keep me warm. I grow a beard to keep me warm. I'm a bit like a bear in the winter in New England. I've got to, battle the cold. And then come summer, I got to go to the beach. So I got to shave that beard off. I got to drop the belly. All this stuff has to happen. This is a to and fro that goes year to year. And I just jump-started the beard process, and I'm not really happy with the way it looks, to be perfectly frank. But
The first year I met Tim, I thought this was a joke. People told me he did this. I laughed. I thought it was funny. I made jokes about having my winter weight for the last 30 years.
they were like, just let him. It's his thing.
But
just,
he does it.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, I really like ice cream, and I'm just inside in the winter more. I'm just eating more ice cream, and going to the gym is a pain because I actually have to go out in the cold. Like, there's all this stuff about living in New England, Jules. You don't get it. It's
No, I don't.
It's
Jeez.
bad news.
It's always hot over here. So
Yeah, I know.
don't know.
So yeah. So anyways, trimmer beard this week. Not intentional. Not particularly happy about it, but we're doing what we gotta do.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is that if you want to leave us a review, go to iTunes and do all that. And thank you for the interaction. And his @ on Twitter is WW Sinclair WW. And thanks for. I'm going to read out I think one or two more interactions we had later on in the show when we talk about our main topic. Do you want to get it kicked off with the nerdy news?
Can I kick off with a deliciously awkward real quick?
Yes.
Oh boy.
I don't know how well this is going to translate to the podcast to voice, but I have to say it. So we work in a giant furniture store, Kevin and I. You really can't get a grasp of how big it is until you check it out. But we also have an IMAX theater there, which we've discussed, and the general purpose of the IMAX theater is to make people walk through the furniture store. So there's 2 different floors. The IMAX is so big that you enter in the bottom floor and you exit in the top floor. People have really short-term memory, so usually they think the IMAX is on the second floor because that's where they were when they last saw it.
Uh-oh.
So most of the time they come back going up the top floor. Where's the IMAX theater? And then we have to tell them where it is. Or they're coming down the main floor and there's like a sign 10 feet in front of them. Where's the IMAX theater? And we have to tell them where it is, and it's a big pain. Well, yesterday Kevin and I are standing around the corner. And this little 6-year-old kid comes around the corner, and his parents aren't quite there yet. So Kevin gets devious because he knows he can say things that maybe he wouldn't say in front of the parents. And the kid goes, "Where's the IMAX theater?" Or "Do you know where the IMAX theater was?" was his specific question. And I think all of us at one time or another have just been tempted to go, "Yeah," and be done with it, which is funny. But Kevin looks at this kid dead in the eye and goes, "I do. Thank you for asking." And stops. And the kid just looks back at him like, "What am I supposed to do now?" It was that little, "Yeah, I do. I appreciate you asking me about that too. Thank you, young man." And nothing. And it was awesome. It was a good 10 seconds of silence after that. Then the parents come, and then Kevin gives some real detailed explanations on how to get there. But that first 10 seconds were so awesome.
Honestly, I knew that the kid would have no way to convey the information to his parents. His mom was far enough away that I had some time to kill, so I figured I'd kill it that way.
Wow. You killed his dreams, that one, yeah?
I do. Thanks for asking.
You just wanted to watch
awesome.
Guardians.
Anyways.
Deliciously
That's deliciously awkward for this week.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
I wish I was there for that.
Yeah, everybody should. It was awesome to watch.
All right. So now on to nerdy news.
Yeah, nerdy news.
Boom.
Nerdy news.
At 6 o'clock. All right. What do we got this week?
So something for me that really caught my eye at the beginning of the week, and then it was just, constantly a lot of people were talking about it, was this whole, I don't know if y'all know about SourceFed, or not, what am I talking about?
We don't know.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, SourceFed and then SourceFed Nerd. the if you're like a YouTuber or gamer or anything, for you to be on YouTube, you might have come across some of SourceFed's shows or SourceFed Nerd, and this week now this nerd took over SourceFed Nerd's YouTube channel because they're
So is this bottom line this, because I have no idea what's going on with this. Is this a company that was this SourceFed Nerd that
yes,
is
well, it was
rebranding and they lost their face? Is that what I'm hearing from this?
No, it was a bigger company, and they bought the rights to their YouTube channel and the because you still get views and stuff, so you
Sure.
still get money.
So this is someone else that bought their channel and is just trying to put their own content on it.
And rebrand it and all that stuff with brand new people without telling the previous people, because one of the main things was that it took them forever to SourceFed Nerd is smaller than SourceFed, and it took them forever to get 1 million subscribers, and they did all day live stream once, 24-hour live stream, and they got like 7,000 new subscribers in a day, which is unheard of, whatever. And they passed 1 million, and it was crazy. Yeah. And then they put up this video, and all the previous hosts are like, whoa, what is this? And why, the main thing was as well is that if they're making the same content, if it's still going to be nerdy stuff, why didn't they have the old hosts? Why didn't have the old people that everybody loved, that everybody subscribed for?
So, because that would cost money.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah,
so you say that this company bought SourceFed Nerd, right? So who benefited from the sale of SourceFed Nerd? The personalities that were on it? Is that the logistics of this? Am I getting this right?
What do you mean? No, because they're unemployed now.
No, but the sale, who owned the intellectual property in the first place? So they bought SourceFed Nerd. Who benefited monetarily from that sale?
I'm not too sure.
Well, if it was created originally by the personalities that were on it, wouldn't it have been the personalities that were on it? If they owned SourceFed Nerd and sold it to a parent company, they would have benefited.
No,
financially.
I think
earlier this year they were acquired by a new owner, Group 9, who then shut them down.
So when Group 9 bought them, who benefited?
Nobody, apparently.
Well, you can't buy something for free.
No. They bought it, and then I don't know. Let's see, bought it and shut it down. But I imagine it was bought it to buy the views.
I'm just gathering at one point or another, and maybe I'm wrong. But I'm gathering at one point or another.
Sure,
the
maybe
personalities that created this benefited monetarily somewhere from the sale of this.
No, because I think they were just hired, like you're hired at the whatever the furniture store.
Well, so who owned SourceFed Nerd then?
Well,
like
who's the question?
Who's the original? Because if it's a YouTube channel, the people who are on it, they're the creators of the YouTube channel, right? They're the ones that get ad revenue and stuff like that. So if they choose to sell it to somebody else, that's, you either work out in your contract that you're staying on, or you give up that right and take the money. Like, that's kind of the choice that you make.
Okay, so let's move on to something else.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm going to edit this down.
Sure. No, I mean, just.
So did you guys see the Defenders trailer?
Defenders. No.
All right. Yeah.
Defenders trailer came out last Thursday, just after the podcast released, and that was spectacular.
Why didn't you tell me to see this trailer?
I can't wait to see this trailer. You didn't go to nerdythingspod.com? You should. I
visit it
cannot wait
daily.
to see this
What's
series.
nerdythingspod.com?
Oh,
What's that about?
That might be our website that is still in its fledgling stages, but we're working on getting news and videos and podcasts and pretty soon
and
blog
there's
posts.
stuff on there and nerdy stuff I can watch? No
yeah,
way.
Absolutely.
Just don't sell it to another company. They might fire you.
But yeah.
All I wanted to say with that was that they're being kind of douches to the previous people, because they're deleting their comments. The previous hosts are commenting on the stuff, and they're deleting their comments. The company, Group 9, whatever, and everybody hates it now, and they lost all their subscribers. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, Defenders looks really cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be spectacular. I'm glad it's a shorter season than some of the others have been, because I feel like they kind of lose steam. You know, I feel like the streaming model has completely changed how TV is watched, and we don't need to fill as much time as we used to have to do. You don't need to sell as many ads. You can put the money into it because it's more about the subscriber number rather than who's watching what, when, where, and why. And so that sort of should start to change what we see, because you don't have to fill, 13 episodes of an hour each or 42 minutes once you account for commercials. So they can do a full hour episode, but do 8 of them and have that be a full season and get the same amount of story across, because it's got the development and, character growth, but it's long enough that you can do what you need in it.
I've been hearing a lot of shit about Iron Fist, and I haven't checked it out yet, and I'm curious if anybody else has checked that one out.
Yeah, I finished it. It's decent. It's a little slow, and it does suffer from exactly what I'm talking about. There's a couple of episodes that are filler, and there's a lot in Iron Fist that it's just like it's plot convenience. Why aren't you doing this? Oh, it's in the script. Rather than if this was a real superhero or even a real person, a lot of what happens to him wouldn't happen.
Interesting. And while we're on the subject of trailers, there was a few other trailers that were released, and some of them were released during the MTV Movie Awards or whatever that was. I was just in it for the trailers. So we got
MTV still a thing?
Yeah, it's something that's not on a streaming something yet.
You know what the M stands for nowadays?
Muppets?
Marvel?
Just M. They got rid of the music.
Oh.
Wah, wah.
MTV, that's legit. Yeah. Yeah, I put a sad trombone there. It and the Spider-Man Homecoming trailers. So maybe we can give like a thumbs up or a thumbs down on trailers. I just thought about that yesterday when I was thinking about a bunch of trailers. So for the Defend trailer, Kevin, would you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or how do you feel about that one?
Thumbs
up.
We'll
move on to the It. Yeah, me too, definitely. Thumbs up for me. It looks really interesting, and it's super cool to see all these sort of personalities interacting, and great trailer. How about the It trailer? What do you think? What do you think about that one?
Well, I have to give it a thumbs down because it scared the poop out of me. Literally. I almost didn't come on the podcast. I was embarrassed. I was hiding under my bed. The poop was out of me. It was terrifying.
I've never been afraid of a balloon before.
There was a balloon there, yeah.
No,
if you have a balloon phobia, yeah, okay.
For real though,
like
I'm not one of those guys that's like afraid of clowns, and I didn't even see the original movie. But the trailer made the clown creepy. It made the balloon creepy. The kids were funny with their little interaction at the beginning. So I'm sure that this movie is going to have some depth and some comedy to the parts in between the terrifying scenes. But yeah, it looks very promising. Really, really good trailer. Like.
I'm glad that Hollywood is starting to get child actors that are actually good actors. We saw this in Stranger Things. Definitely seeing that in this too, because I just hate children that act because they are terrible at it.
Mm-hmm. And Millie 11 from Stranger Things did win an award at the MTV Movie Awards.
I saw that. Good for her.
So that was super cool. Yeah,
nice.
She was spectacular in that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So It trailer, it was. I guess kind of scary, or just because you know what's gonna happen. I did enjoy it, and yeah, definitely the kid interactions were super funny and interesting. And it's like, oh, these are adults, but they're playing smaller. You know what I mean? Like it didn't seem like a super offhand kid that they're just like, oh, let me write this part. And it's supposed to be a kid or whatever. And it's like, no, you're writing for a kid. You have to see how they talk and how they would interact with another kid.
Yep.
And that's super cool that I think they're going to do that right in this movie. So I think I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up, but only one, because the other arm has my head in the crook of my elbow and I'm crouched down and crying.
Huh. Well, I was picturing that. I thought you were going for a dab. but trying to be like more of a kid. But all right.
No, I'm too old for the dab.
Dude,
as
everybody's
you
too
kids
old
call
for
it.
the dab, okay? Nobody's dabbed in about a year and a half.
No, it's not true. One of the girls that works with us brought her kids in for the movie, and her kid
Did they dab for
went
Guardians?
to give me a high five.
Yes.
And as I went to high five him, instead he did the dab and then laughed at me and ran away.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense,
I
though.
pictured Kevin.
Yep.
That's great. Oh,
Yep.
man.
Thanks, Enzo.
Blade Runner 2049.
Yes.
Blade Runner 2049.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
God. Yes, Harrison Ford, Ryan Reynolds. Looks amazing.
Right? Jesus Christ.
Gosling.
That was...
Gosling?
Gosling.
Ah!
The more serious Ryan.
Ah, yes, absolutely. No, I know. Ryan Gosling looks amazing in this. I was worried when they cast him, but I think this is going to be a lot better than I feared. It's been so long since I saw the original. I don't care. And there's been so many re-releases where they changed the story George Lucas style that I'm not sure like what the status of some of the characters is supposed to be in this new one based on the others. I just don't like. I'm kind of confused with that, and I hope they clear it up. And I think they already have in the trailer, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
can I ask you a
thumbs
question?
up
Why were
for me.
you concerned about the Ryan Gosling casting?
Because Ryan Gosling is weird. He's more of a, to me, more of a like a romantic comedy, or not. I don't know. Like Driver was fine. He was good in that, but it was more of like a social defect than anything else. And I just don't really think of him as a serious actor.
Oh, he's a great serious actor. The March,
Yeah.
the Ides of March, he was great in that.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah, that's a great movie.
The Notebook?
Well,
Look it up.
I'm not going to go with The Notebook as the gold standard of his acting ability. The Big Short, he was great in, although he plays more of like a kind of a douchebag in that one. But I mean, he's really good. I just think Ryan Gosling is really good. And the
All
thing
right,
is,
then I guess the
Drive,
fault is with me.
the Drive to me, that's like the character. Like if you think about Harrison Ford in Blade Runner, he was this
Yep.
kind of super serious, I don't really express myself, stone face, just kind of go through life and do my thing. Like that was the character. That's kind of who he played in Drive. Like
Yeah, a
pretty
little bit.
much, you know. So I thought the casting to me seemed pretty spot on, but the rest of the rest of the ensemble is looking pretty good too. Jared Leto, super talented guy. Robin Wright, who we talked about on House of Cards last week, she's going to be
Yep.
great in this, I'm sure. Dave Bautista, I'm loving that Guardians of the Galaxy is opening up his doors because he's
I know.
awesome.
He is spectacular.
Yeah, Lenny James from The Walking Dead, Edward James Olmos. It's a heck of a cast that they've put together
That's pretty
here.
stacked, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, star-studded doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yep, but the kind of stars that I would want to see in movies, you know, not somebody who's just a movie star, but people who
Yep.
actually take their craft seriously. And it's definitely, I'm encouraged by the whole thing that I saw. The trailer looked great. The tone was in keeping with the movie from 1982. Like, remember we talked about this in that Ghost in the Crap movie.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about how the visuals looked like a movie from the 90s, you know, but
Yes.
nobody understood
Yeah.
why that was the case, but they weren't that great, blah, blah, blah. Well, Jules had a different
sure.
opinion, but whatever. But this looks like the movie from 1982. But if you took the technology we have now to make it look a little more realistic, a little more polished, it's just they did a great job of translating this to today, but without really changing it. And I don't know if that says more about how well they saw into the future in 1982 or just how good a job they've done of being true to the source material here. It's
Well, I mean,
really
I think
good.
in the 82 version, they had the added benefit of they didn't have a huge budget for this, and they were going for like the bleak, not advanced so much type of thing, and we've sort of hit that. Like we're in that sort of not a lot of actual progress dystopia.
Yeah.
Where things are just getting dirty and we don't have like giant holograms yet and corporations are taking over, which is exactly that world.
Yeah, well, they did visually. I thought they did a great job with it. I'm really looking forward to this. I was kind of a little lukewarm on it because I'm not like the biggest fan of the original. I liked it, but I'm not. Whoa! So I was lukewarm on it, and then I saw this trailer, and it turned, and I can't wait until this comes out in October.
Awesome. So, what else do we have? Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Was this
I
a
don't
new
know how
trailer?
I feel about it. Yeah, it was
I
just like
didn't watch
it was just. I don't even know if it's a trailer. It was more like a teaser of just him crawling on, spoiler, whatever. Spider-Man. He was crawling on top of. He was crawling into his room, and he was crawling on the ceiling or whatever. And he's like making sure not to make a sound for anybody outside of the room or downstairs or whatever. And then he jumps down and turns and sees his friend. And he's just like scared, like looking at him like, you're the Spider-Man, whatever. And he unsuits, and it's more like a teaser.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. You could probably.
This has been in trailers before.
It's what they do
it's
on
something that we've
MTV.
seen.
They show you like 10 seconds of something. It's designed to get the teenagers that are watching it excited. The short attention span thing. It's like
We can relate.
it's a
Let's show
commercial
Spider-Man.
it's not a commercial. It's in the thing. It's like, oh look, here's Spider-Man. It's just after the commercial break, another look at Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's trying to get people to tune into the show more than it is actually promoting the movie itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean, I've reached the point where I've stopped watching Spider-Man trailers and things like that because they've already ruined most of the movie for me. And I do want to be excited when the movie comes out. I do want to go see it, and so I just kind of want to tap the brakes. If something gets spoiled, I don't care. Alan's going to spoil it for me before we get there anyway. But no, it's cool. I'm glad. I think this movie is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see it. I cannot wait to see what's his face there, Birdman, act in this.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
So I've got a question about this movie because I'm going like really back and forth on whether I care about this or not.
And whether you think Tobey Maguire's your Spider-Man. Go on.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the first Spider-Man there, but Spider-Man's never worked to me. Like I've never seen it in an iteration where I really just thought it worked. So that kind of leaves me a little bit on the edge. But I'm looking at this a little bit. I liked the kid's appearance in the Avengers movie or in Captain America, whichever one of those they want to call it, because they're all Avengers movies at this point now. At least the Captain America ones
Pretty
are.
much. Right.
So I liked his appearance. He was a good little comic relief, but I question whether he can carry a whole movie and make me interested. The other thing is, so I know that there was a weird agreement between Sony and Disney with Marvel about the rights to Spider-Man, and there was like some people, one studio was in charge of one movie and the other was in charge of the other movie. Who's making this movie? Is this
So this is Sony making the movie. What happened was
Right.
back in the 80s when Marvel was bankrupt, they sold the rights to Spider-Man in perpetuity to Sony. And so Sony is making this movie with Marvel's direction.
Okay, so but Sony's the studio that's behind the movie, not Disney, not Marvel Studios.
Is that right?
That's the impression that I got. I'm looking for something in front of me to like validate, but that's the impression that I got, and that worries me a little bit, because I'm looking at who's involved with. So who's John Watts? John Watts is directing this movie. Who the hell is John Watts? John Watts' director history is a movie called Cop Car from 2015, starring Kevin Bacon, which I didn't see. Some movie called Clown. A segment called Our RoboCop Remake. The Onion News Network. A TV movie. Jewish Santa is coming. A short. Like, he's directed a bunch of
Those are all
shorts.
bangers, man.
And he hasn't directed anything in movie form that would make me think that he warrants directing a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Which, if
Okay.
you want to call this a Marvel movie.
So, couple of things. First off, it is Marvel that is doing this.
Okay.
And Marvel does that with all of their good movies. Look at Guardians. Look at what what's his face, that James Gunn had done before Guardians, and it's basically Slither, one weird superhero movie with I believe Rainn Wilson, and that's it. And he did Guardians, and it's amazing. John Watts, is going to be the same thing. Marvel does their vetting pretty well. So this is being produced by Marvel. They are splitting the proceeds with Sony. So that is how Sony is involved. Sony still owns the rights to Spider-Man movies, and they may kick Marvel out and start making their own. I know they're working on a Venom standalone movie.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And there's a lot of rumbling about whether Spider-Man's going to remain in the MCU or not. But this is a Marvel movie, and so all of my fears are gone.
So James Gunn had also written for Scooby-Doo, for Dawn of the Dead. He had a little bit more going for him than this guy does. I just want to say that. But I'm also, so look at the screenplay. The screenplay was written by 7 different people. Now, one of them is John Francis Daley, who people might remember from Waiting, but also from that short-lived TV series Freaks and Geeks that basically spawned most of the great comedians of the last decade. So I like him. He has actually got some writing credits to him recently that I thought were pretty good, or maybe it was a directing credit. Horrible Bosses 2. He wrote Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. He wrote, so I like John Francis Daley, but Kevin and I, we've talked about this a million times. I never like it when I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 writers on a screenplay.
Yeah.
Because that usually means it's being rewritten multiple times because they didn't like what was going on with it. The studio didn't like what's going on with it. So I don't know, dude. I'm a little off put by this. I'm not quite sure about this movie.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't like the direction that the trailers are taking because unlike other Marvel movies, like I said, it's given away a lot of the plot, and there isn't really room in this where there could be something else. Like, if you look at the Guardians 2 trailer, I had no idea who the bad guy was, and we'll get into that later. I don't want to spoil anything now, but going into this movie, I legitimately didn't know what the big conflict of the movie was.
Right.
You know, and I feel like with Spider-Man, I know not only who the villain is, I know how the fights progress. I know who wins in the end, obviously, but it doesn't. There's no
Stark's
threat.
Going to be in it too.
You know.
Yeah, so I don't know. I keep going back and forth on this. I see a trailer that I like. I see a trailer that I don't like. I mean, obviously the cast is going to be good because they're pulling from other Marvel movies, so I don't have anything bad to say there. Donald Glover makes an appearance, apparently. I love me some Donald Glover. The whole Marissa Tomei being the, hot aunt thing is cool. That lends itself to comedy. I like that. She's also a great actress. I mean, Oscar-winning actress for when the scenes get dramatic. But I don't know, man. I'm up in the air on this one. Somebody's got to convince me that I'm really interested in this.
Cool. Well then, thumbs up or thumbs down for, I guess, all of the trailers or this movie coming out. I'm gonna give it like a sideways sort of. I don't know.
I give it a good fist. My thumb's tucked in. It doesn't know which way to go.
Can we get that on a shirt? I give it a good fist. Tim,
I'm going to give it a thumbs up, but my pointer finger and my pinky are also up. I'm doing the Spider-Man web shooter thing.
Oh, okay. I get it. Cool.
Nicely done, Kevin. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Really cool.
Listen, Spider-Man's my boy, all right?
Yeah. Spider-Man's my boy. That's another shirt idea. I'm just gonna think of merch. If somebody
just announce it on the show. He's just gonna announce it on the show too.
You know what, Jules? You're the worst.
William, if you want to make us merch, that'd be great, and we'll take all the proceeds from that to make you better content. For you.
Another. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Another trailer that came out was the Orange is the New Black trailer for their new season. That was good, but do you think it was the right time for that? Was that enough time between like the whole hacking thing and
don't tell me I haven't seen it.
No, I'm not going to watch this trailer yet. I'm still not over the second to last episode of season 4.
Oh yeah.
I still haven't watched the last episode of season 4. It's on my list, but I just can't bring myself to do it.
Okay.
It was interesting. I haven't watched the whole season, and I only care about things being spoiled for me, so I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. No, it was good. Yeah, just really, I don't know, in fashion with what they're doing, and I don't know how to not spoil it. It was just good. It was a good trailer. I give it a thumbs up if you care about my input. out there, listeners. So if you like the any of these trailers, or if you had any different opinions about any of these trailers, go ahead and tweet us, message us on Facebook or Instagram at NerdyThingsPod, and we'll definitely tell you how you're wrong. Was that all the trailers I think we got?
I think that was all the trailers I saw, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to other news, I think.
Cliff Curtis of Fear the Walking Dead has signed on to be in all 4 Avatar sequels. So an actor that we don't really care about, from a TV show that we don't really care about, has signed on to be on all 4 of the movies that we're not sure we care about.
Exactly.
Nerdy news.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I like Cliff Curtis. I just don't like Fear the Walking Dead, and I really can't give a shit about Avatar.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you like Fear the Walking Dead? I haven't jumped the gun. I just kind of stopped with The Walking Dead, and I never really got around to Fear the Walking Dead. So I don't know if there was a legit reason or what.
Yeah, no, Fear the Walking Dead should have been spectacular. The premise should have been a different show than it wound up being. Because you have The Walking Dead, which is a show about normal people surviving in the zombie apocalypse. So if you want to have a spin-off, you have to have a different premise. And in the Fear the Walking Dead case, the different premise is that they're on the other coast. And really what it should have been is this is instead, because in Walking Dead, if you haven't seen it, this is episode 1 stuff, so no big deal. But the main character wakes up 90 days or something after the zombie apocalypse. I forget the exact timing of it, but he wakes up after the initial push and failure of humanity, and sort of by chance meets up with the group that has the rest of the people he knows in it. In Fear the Walking Dead, I feel like it would have been a much better show if they had spent more time in that fall of humanity, in the military taking over cities, and the sort of tension that comes from that, and the fear and the riots and all of that, and hold off on the zombies being in the forefront, have them in the background, have them be myth, have them be rumor, and sort of focus on that humanity aspect and that conflict. But instead they did the same thing. They build right up to that moment, and then there was like a 14-day jump ahead, and suddenly the military is running things, and we're beyond that. And I wanted more of that. I wanted more of the conflict. I wanted more of what we were missing from The Walking Dead, and now they've skipped it, and we're back into the same territory of The Walking Dead.
That probably could have been like a good season too. Like that's not something small. Like they could have just burned a whole season and gotten a whole season out of them. Zombies in the background again. I mean, they're in the background regardless of
No, they are, and I really for the format of that show, I think they should be. But they've sort of again eliminated the threat of the zombies. Like in Walking Dead, they're not afraid of the zombies, even when there's a huge mass of them, because if you're central to the plot, you're always going to get out of it. And in Fear the Walking Dead,
they're afraid of them. We're not afraid of them.
Yeah, no, exactly. But in Fear the Walking Dead, they just kind of got on a boat, and now we're just driving around in a boat, and there's zombies on that island. Well, okay, don't go there. Oh, we're just going to keep going past that island. Okay, that's good advice. There's no threat.
Insert Lonely Island music here.
I'm on a boat and it's going fast, and I got an nautical theme, pass me the Afghan.
But yeah, so when I saw Fear the Walking Dead, I was still into Walking Dead at that point. I was actually okay with it. And I was like, oh, cool, because we've discussed this before. I love backstories. We know I love to find out what happened before. So I was like, this is an interesting thing. We're going to find out how the zombie apocalypse occurred. What was the instance? What was the, patient zero? How did the infection happen? How did it spread? What did it look like as law enforcement reacted, as governments reacted, blah, blah, blah. We didn't get any of that.
Nope.
They jumped us right into zombies, which was essentially basically The Walking Dead. I mean, Rick wakes up and they're in the, heat of the zombie battle, so it's more or less the same thing. And we talked about why did we like The Walking Dead in the first place. You care about the characters, right? That's what get you
That's exactly
into
it.
the show. And then as they've killed off some main characters, they keep introducing people that we don't invest in because we're not sure if they're gonna, live or die. And I think that almost hurt the Fear the Walking Dead because I'm not invested in these characters.
No, not at all. And they did nothing to make you invest in them.
Maybe it's because they're not as good a character, but maybe it's because I also think, they're a bunch of them are gonna die anyways.
Right.
So it never really did any of what it set out to do. It didn't get me invested in it. It didn't tell any backstory. It's like Kevin said, it's Walking Dead on the West Coast. And I'm like, I really was kind of almost done with The Walking Dead anyway, so I don't really want to see a different version of the same thing where they have legal pot. The only difference between the West Coast and the East Coast.
It's tans and fish tacos.
Right, exactly. So, anyways, yeah.
No, I know.
So I shouldn't see it.
Give it a miss. Stream it when it's available, so you can skip the parts you don't need.
Who am I to say? Really, Jules, who am I to say? Just the guy with a podcast. That's all I got.
Oh, me too.
We got some nerdy news involving Nintendo this week.
Yes.
A little bit of Switch stuff I'll run through first, and then something that's of genuine interest, I think. Intrigue, more like intrigue. So from the Nintendo Switch, we had a release yesterday. Who played NBA Jam back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Who didn't?
Boom shakalaka. So yeah, there's a game that's come out, and I can't even remember the name of it. Hold on a second. And it's like, I want to say it's like NBA Street or something like that, but I know that's the EA game. NBA Playground, I think is what it is, right? Yeah, NBA Playgrounds. And it's basically an updated version of NBA Jam. EA tried to do something called NBA Streets, which was 3-on-3, supposedly a pretty good game, but a little more kind of a sim. This is that old school arcade action. It's out on Switch, it's out on PS4, Xbox One, PC, whatever. It's $20. So how can you go wrong?
Right.
$20?
$20, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. I don't
yeah.
even have a Switch. I'm going to buy a copy.
The reviews have been, very good, 7+ reviews for the most part. If you go on Reddit, you're going to get some really mixed reactions, but that's the nature of Reddit, I think. Read IGN, read Destructoid, they give it 7.5. Go to Reddit, literally unplayable because of various glitches or whatever. But the game looks really fun. I was going to download it and play last night, but I fell asleep because I worked hard, so I will be playing it soon. That looks cool. Assassin's Creed looks like it was leaked, the next version of Assassin's Creed, and it's actually been 2 years since the Assassin's Creed came out. I don't know that anybody cares about it anymore, but we talked about specifically with the Nintendo Switch, third-party support is important, and the leak that came out did not specifically say that it was going to be ported to the Nintendo Switch, which is bad news. However, the president of EA Games, who's already announced a FIFA for the Nintendo Switch will be coming out day and date with the rest of the games, said that he's really psyched about the Nintendo Switch and really looking forward to bringing more content. So, EA is one of the biggest game developers out there. They want to bring stuff to the Nintendo Switch. We think that is good. 2K Sports said that the NBA 2K17 will come out the same day on Switch as well as everything else. Another good third-party support. But the big news of the week. Does anybody remember 2 years ago, some dude found, I think in his attic, because his father worked for Sony in the early 90s, the Nintendo/Sony Super NES PlayStation.
I do remember this, yeah.
Yep.
And everybody wondered if it was real. It was validated to be real. It is believed to be the only prototype in existence, and somebody got it to turn on, which is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, there's
the thing looks super cool.
Now, back when they got it to turn on, that was cool, but the CD drive didn't work. Because that was the thing, was basically an SNES with a CD drive on top, or in this case, built into one. They were going to release it partially as a peripheral, and then also as a singular system if you didn't already own the Super NES. But Ben Heck got a hold of this thing, has been working on it for a while, and he got the CD-ROM to boot, and a primitive game to play on it.
That's fantastic.
Really cool.
I love watching Ben Heck.
Yeah, it was fun. I've not watched a whole lot of his stuff, but it was really cool to watch his process. He kind of, keeps it entertaining while going into some of the technical details of what he did. But my favorite part was he's mapping out all of these chips, figuring out what they do, how they talk to each other, still not able to get the CD-ROM to boot. And then he comes back to the office one day, and it worked. I jiggled this ribbon cable and it worked. So he thinks maybe it's bad ribbon cables. Sure enough, he replaces the ribbon cables, and that was what was preventing the thing to work in the first place. He still needed to know all this other stuff to get things to boot and stuff, but really the problem was the ribbon cables weren't working.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I actually got an Xbox once because the ribbon cables didn't work. My brother took his Xbox apart, painted the outside, put it back together, and put it back together wrong. And then instead of doing anything else, went out and bought another one and was like, hey, I think I fried this. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah. Opened it up, switched the ribbon cable around. It was just not plugged in all the way. And I got myself a free Xbox.
Boom, shakalaka.
Boom.
Yeah, so it was just really cool to watch. And, as somebody who's a huge fan of Nintendo, to see that was really cool. He, now that he has it working, and now that they actually know the capabilities of the system, he's giving the system back to the original guy, but he's inviting developers to try and make a game for it, like a real game, which would be fun to see what it could actually do. But imagine what the landscape of gaming would be like today if Nintendo hadn't just decided, for whatever reason, to reverse tracks and make a partnership with Philips and piss off Sony, so Sony created the real PlayStation. Imagine what would have happened.
I can't even imagine. It would have been...
No, it would be totally different.
So different. I mean, Sony, no matter what you think of them for their Spider-Man movies, has done some good stuff with video games.
Well, they have the best-selling video game system of all time. I mean, PlayStation 2, mind you, probably half of those sales were just as DVD players, but they have the greatest selling video game system of all time. And they're not innovators, which, kind of sucks. No. And that's the one thing I wish, that the industry was still being run by innovators like Nintendo. They're not innovators, but they've given a platform for gaming to become ridiculously mainstream. And I think that only helps build niches for things like the Nintendo Switch or portable systems, or even PC gaming like Steam and virtual reality array like Oculus Rift. That stuff only comes about because of how mainstream games are now, and I think a large degree of that is because of Sony and what they did in making their systems accessible to people who may not have otherwise bought one.
Yeah, you kind of need that non-innovating powerhouse to appeal to the mainstream. You need the weirdly innovating Microsoft to put a video camera with infrared that records everything you say in your house. And it leaves room, you're right, it leaves room for the Switch and the Oculus and the
Steam?
Apple Fire, no, not Apple, Amazon Fire game thing that they have. Yeah, no, seriously. Like, you can buy the control for that and play Android games on your TV for some reason, and play some other games that you can stream, and it's awkward as hell. But there's room for it in the market. People will buy that,
Yeah. Speaking on gaming and all that, there was another thing that happened this week. Valve exposed Steam's recommendation system. So if you're a gamer, or if you are interested in games, you probably have a Steam account, and there's just a bunch of games on there, and they usually have a bunch of sales and stuff for how you see games, and 10% off this game this week or whatever. And it's an immense library of video games, and really easy for people that aren't fully developed in their game making to put out a beta or an alpha and have people try it out. So that's kind of where all that's happening, and it's on Steam. So what they did this week was they changed it up, and now they're showing you how they give you the recommendations, because on some of the top screens you see like, since you played this or whatever, or here's some games that you might want to try and stuff like that, and they're showing you why that is. Maybe some of your friends liked it. Maybe somebody that you may know through somebody gave them a good review, gave that game a good review. And I think that transparency is really good, because we see algorithms all the time, and they just really don't tell you how it works. I mean, I find that all the time on Facebook and Twitter, Facebook mainly, that there's a different algorithm pretty much every week.
Facebook's the worst for that.
Yeah, to how your news feed is set up. Now, since like before, it was like if your content gets more likes, then it'll shoot up to the top of people seeing it. Okay, cool. If now it's like if your content gets a lot of comments, it does that. Now they want reactions. Now a lot of reactions, like the heart, the happy, the wow, the crying face, and all that. If your post gets more reactions and not likes, that's more likely to get shot up in your newsfeed. So algorithms are everywhere, and we find them on all the social media stuff. And I'm really liking what Steam is doing by showing you how that works and how they're giving you the content they're recommending to you. I think that's pretty cool.
I'm kind of torn on this because I do think there should be transparency. I think we should know how we're being manipulated, because that's really what this is.
Yeah, that's all that is. Yeah.
No, but I also think at the same time, it's not going to be long before people are gaming this. I mean, you've had people who work for site enhancement optimization forever, trying to figure out how to make your website appear higher up in Google and all this other stuff on I hear there's a search engine called Bing, but I don't believe it. But Yahoo and all of those.
Yahoo!
And that's the same thing. You know, we've got people that are going to be going through this and saying, okay, well, if you put this keyword in, then this is going to happen. And pretty soon it'll be meaningless, and they'll be changing that algorithm anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why Facebook does what they do, but I don't know. I don't have to like it.
Yeah. I just thought it was something interesting that they're doing. They're trying something different, and maybe other places will, follow suit. Maybe not. Probably not.
So.
Facebook's always going to be secretive about all that.
Yeah, screw Facebook.
And I think that's all I got for nerdy news. Do you want to...
That's all I got. We want to get into the main topic?
The main topic.
All right. So...
What are we talking about this week, guys? I forget.
LaGuardia Airport.
LaGuardia Airport. It is better than
Guardians
JFK.
of the Galaxy.
What? Guardians of the Galaxy came out this week? What?
Indeed.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Hey, thanks.
Yes.
Thanks to everybody who tuned in to our 30-second Facebook Live performance. We promised we'd deliver, and we did, from the fourth best IMAX theater in the country. Kevin and I were there with our wives, not featured in our Facebook
actually
Live.
There was a lot of views on that. Yeah,
I know. I was surprised.
Wow, what?
It was 30 seconds, so it was kind of obligatory. I think we were already in our seats, and it was fun. So thanks for tuning into that. But yeah,
it was really cool. We showed up to the theater late, like they were already letting people in, and there was a huge line. So we walked in the back door because we worked there and just took seats.
Yeah, kinda,
Wow.
except for the fact that we had better seats lined up until I go into the fourth seat because we needed 4 of them, and the girl's like, yeah, my sweatshirt's not touching that seat, but I'm saving it anyways. Well, the 45 seconds that you just cost me, chick, lost me these good seats and every other good seats in the theater, so we had to go sit someplace that sucked, but whatever.
It was fine.
It was all right.
There isn't a bad seat in that theater.
The closer you get, the screen gets too big.
I sit in the front every day.
You're
Listen,
weird.
the front is where you can sit in the front. You
Like,
can
in
lay
the
back.
front?
You don't have to move your head at all. You can unfocus your eyes and watch the entire movie.
Not move
It's
your head.
great.
I've seen you when you're down in the front. You look like somebody's telling you something that you really don't want to hear. You're just shaking your head
Head
back
on a
and forth,
swivel.
shaking your head back and forth. Like, no. That's my impression
I
of
like that
Kevin
experience.
watching an IMAX movie from the front seat. No. Anyways,
Don't knock his movie going experience. If he likes that, just let him.
boy.
yeah, go sit in the
Let him
front
do
seat
it.
of an Uber.
I'm gonna say full spoilers from now on.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 yet, we're gonna
Please
be
stop
talking
now.
about it heavily. Stop, go watch it, and continue later.
At this
And
point,
if you're
guys, we've
gonna
given you a
go
whole
see it,
freaking week. I mean, let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
get on it. So I'm gonna ask you how everybody liked it or whatever. We have a lot of people that are doing other podcasts that listen to us, and that's pretty cool. So that at Tipsy Testament, I asked for a short review on Twitter, and they said they fucking loved it. That's how you do a sequel and do it correctly. It had
Hell
a serious
yeah.
shit. It had serious shit going on, but the fun humor was always there, and that's from V and Alex. V and Alex, thank you for messaging us on Twitter, and I'm sure a ton of other podcasters enjoyed it as well. So, yeah, that was just a good movie. I don't know where do you want to start? Do you want to go in sections like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3? Because I think there was a really easy to figure out where they kind of ended. So
Yeah. So let's start
yeah.
at the opening sequence. I didn't think they would have the ability to top the opening sequence from Guardians, the original, which my wife and I watched the night before we saw Guardians 2. I was spectacular. They did it again. The music, Groot dancing, and the fight being secondary. I could not stop laughing the entire time. That was exactly how you do that.
Yeah, that definitely bridged the gap between a Guardians movie and another Marvel movie where you would usually see them fighting it out with this huge monster or whatever, and that would be the main focus. And then definitely as soon as you see Baby Groot sort of just dancing around and going to the music, you definitely know this is something different, and this is putting a stake in, this is a Guardians movie. I remember this, and it's so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we talked about this when we were talking about trailers and how a lot of people are putting this music of the 60s and 70s in their trailers. And Guardians is different because the music is central to the theme of the movie. I mean, scenes are choreographed around the music. And when we had Guardians the first time, to your point, Kevin, I used to go into the theater just to catch the opening sequence. Because I love that song. I mean, Come and Get Your Love is a great song. Just watching Chris Pratt kind of dance around, sing into these, critters, and it was just really cool. And I feel the same way about this one. Baby Groot stole that scene, and it was genius, like you said, focusing on him. The fight was secondary, focusing on the music and kind of the stuff going on around it until they actually had to defeat the beast. But what a great job opening this movie. It set the tone. Movies we've reviewed recently have done a great job of setting the tone. We talked about this with Fast and the Furious. That whole race in the beginning where he lights up on fire, you know what you're in for. Same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. You are in for a comedy. This was one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. And I'm including some of my favorite straight-up comedies that I've watched a million times. One of the funniest movies I've ever seen. And then right at the end of all the laughter, you get this great destruction of this really cool intergalactic beast. I mean, it was awesome. What a great opening this was.
Yeah, it's got the right blend of comedy and serious and funny and yelling at each other. You see the relationships between them, and you get the setup for one of the best jokes in the film with Drax and not wearing the vest because he has sensitive nipples.
And see, now we know why Drax doesn't wear a shirt. Mystery solved.
No, it makes so much sense. You know what? Actually, I wanted to bring this up. Tim, yesterday you mentioned that on Yahoo you had seen an article that talked about how Guardians opens up a plot hole in the Avengers, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yes. I did find that article. And I did read it. And I got to tell you, as nitpicky as I get with this stuff, I think that article was bullshit.
What was their issue?
What was that about?
So it talks about how this movie takes place in 2014, just after the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
And so as far as the Avengers and Earth are concerned, the Avengers have not yet broken up from Civil War. Mm-hmm. And so they are still a team that goes around avenging people or avenging shit that happens. And so this article was talking about how this was bullshit that the Avengers didn't show up and try to deal with whatever was happening on Earth with that giant CGI blob thing that was appearing.
Oh, who's to say that they didn't?
Well, exactly. We don't hear it mentioned in any of the later Avengers movies, and so this article was like, well, then it didn't happen. They would have mentioned it, and that I don't think that's true.
Yeah. There's also no time for them to react in this particular movie. You know what I mean? And it's not like that fight was hours long. So, and who knows what when the planet was destroyed, who knows what that did to the rest of the stuff. Maybe it also just destroyed that, so it's almost like it never happened. I mean, obviously the event happened, but I don't think the Avengers discussed every previous event in between movies that they were involved with or that occurred that they had to be aware of. That's not really
no, and that's exactly my point. I think that there can be background. There can be other things that you don't have to know about. You just have to focus on the central things for the Avengers movies, the central things for the Guardians. Yeah. So I just wanted to call bullshit on that.
Right. The other thing I liked about this opening sequence, you talked about it, Kevin, where you see the dynamic and the relationship between the characters. I mean, clearly some time has passed. We know it's still 2014, but some time has passed, and they've worked together and lived together for a while. And they did a really good job kind of catching us up as to how they're playing together. You know, how their relationships have actually developed since we saw them in the last movie. And just, you know, little quips here and there let you kind of feel like you were with them for the last few months or whatever it is. And it's not like just jumping forward. I mean, everything about this movie from A to Z was just really well done, and just no detail was left unnoticed.
No, it was so well crafted, and that's like the only word I can think of, is that this was molded by design to be exactly this, and it was perfect.
Yeah, like Tim, you were saying that, you know, you got some of the story from different, you know, side conversations or like little quips and things like that, and it did feel like each dialogue piece was crafted and had its purpose and had a reason for it. And you know, there was not a lot of filler. There was no filler, I don't think, of any audio dialogue that I didn't find interesting or was, you know, core to finding out about somebody,
right.
or was just funny. It was just something funny that they set up, and it was just hilarious. So I think in the first act, in general, I kind of split it up. There was just a lot of you bringing back, or being brought back by the Guardians, like, hey, you're back home. I felt really this idea of being home, and it felt really
felt like
nice.
Family.
Yeah, it felt definitely like a family, and there was a lot of poop jokes in in the first act, and a lot of
famously
silly
huge.
jokes and stuff like that.
My turds are famously huge.
Yeah, and it was great, and I was laughing out loud in the theaters. So and then we get introduced to Ego, and that whole thing, and then brilliantly cast. I'm pretty sure we already said that, but definitely seeing it on the big screen, it was just fantastic watching.
Having seen it, I can't imagine anyone else pulling that role off.
No.
Nope.
You know, he looks like he could be Chris Pratt's father.
Yep. He does,
You know,
and the first comment that he makes to him, I mean, it's just such a Chris Pratt comment to make, or, you know, such a Star-Lord comment to make. He's like, you don't recognize me from my rugged good looks, or, you know, something to that effect. And I'm like, dude, that's just perfect.
And when they did the young version of him on Earth in the car and in the woods, holy shit, that was him. Like, there wasn't a moment where I was like, oh, this is like Free Willy, I can see the pixels. That was flawless.
Yeah, it was the face was a little creepy, though.
It was, I think, because we're used to him being older.
Yeah, but it was funny because I'm not sure if I'm going to say this or not. Kevin and I talked about doing a Guilty Pleasures episode at one point.
All right.
Watching through a TV series with my wife that I was a big fan of in the 90s. Now I'm not going to reveal what it is yet. She had never watched it. But anyways, what's her name? Kate Hudson is in it, and it's young Kate Hudson. And young Kate Hudson has a kind of a wide face, kind of like that CG had a wide face. And she was just, you know, I'm like, ooh, it's kind of creepy because that's kind of looking like the CG face that we saw last night in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow.
No offense to Kate Hudson, you're a wonderful person, but it was something about it. It was kind of creepy, but yeah, I agree, Kevin. The animation was excellent. You know, there were no like obvious flaws or anything like that. It didn't look like it was, you know, fake or anything. It was cool. It was a real neat way to do that.
Yeah, you know, and I loved that they split up. I loved that Star-Lord and Drax and Gamora went with Ego and Cricket Girl
Mantis
to Ego's, well, to Ego, I guess. But and left Groot, Nebula, and Rocket in the ship. Rocket is a badass.
Oh yeah,
Rocket's
definitely super cool.
Setting up all those traps. I was afraid when you first realized that the Ravagers are coming for him, and you've got Groot who's kind of freaking out, and Nebula who's trying to convince Groot to let her free. I'm thinking Rocket's working on the ship. I'm thinking Rocket's unaware, and then just to see him in that tree, waiting, commando style, like he's something out of Predator, was just, I don't know, my heart swelled because I knew what was coming, and just to watch him dismantle those people was just invigorating. I guess is the only word for it.
And his raccoon attributes really paid off. climbing through
Yeah,
those trees,
very much so.
right?
He's running through.
His trash panda,
Yeah, trash
panda attributes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely those scenes. I really enjoy those scenes because some of the times you forget that they are very capable, people or capable entities that can hold their own against people and defend themselves and be the guardians of the galaxy. Sometimes you do forget that because it's really funny and it's a really amazing movie overall. But, that scene just really showed how good these guys are, and they are to be taken seriously. They are the guardians of the galaxy. They're good at what they do, and they do what they do for a reason. And they're together and defending things and stealing maybe sometimes. And it was just a blast.
Yeah, well, that was the other payoff, was Rocket stealing the batteries from the beginning. This movie was full of very smart payoffs where they have subtle things that perform multiple roles. Rocket steals the batteries, so he's basically just a kleptomaniac who can't control his impulses. But that pays off at the end when they have to use those Quarnax batteries to blow up Ego. You've got the Drax nipple thing that comes back again when they put the harness on Drax when they're blowing up Ego, and he screams out, "My nipples," as he's flying away.
Yeah.
And it's just a subtle, one-time thing, but it's such a payoff for the original joke that I had tears in my eyes from it.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw a joke that you didn't know it was at the time, but you saw something introduced in the first scene of the movie.
Nope.
And then they hold on to it until just about the last scene to pay off with a joke that just cracks up the whole theater. I mean, they held on to that thing for an hour and 45 minutes, just letting you remember it, because who's going to forget the fact that this guy says he has sensitive nipples? It's not a throwaway line that you're not going to remember. So when they come back to it, you're like, oh, that's awesome. Such a good job with that. They were so patient with so many different things. And even stealing the batteries, and then, when you're seeing different characters relate to each other in ways that you didn't expect. But when Yondu is like, trying to point out parallels between Rocket's personality and his personality so they can talk about how they relate to each other. And he's like, and guys who steal batteries when they don't need to, and they just use this for so many different things in the movie, beyond just the obvious. So what well-crafted stuff right at the beginning.
Yeah,
Definitely. And
very
then,
much so.
Going into Act 2, you get a whole lot of, in succession, they lead. Oh, first Act 1, they lead you off with this battle or whatever, and bring you back in. And then Act 2, there was a succession of very sentimental moments by a lot of different people, and kind of moving the story forward and making you understand these characters more. Because, like we said before, you probably didn't know about the Guardians of the Galaxy before this movie, and not unless you were a comic book fan and they rebooted it back in 2010, like the comic book or whatever. But you didn't really know about these characters. Now we know a whole lot, and then even now we know how they interact together and the way they think about each other. And it was just really amazing to see even like Drax and Mantis talking together. That was an interesting way to get Drax to say some sentimental stuff and really give you insight on him as a character. And they just kept doing that with almost all of the characters, and it was just fantastic in succession. And I didn't think I could stand that. If you said, I'm going to play this part, it's going to be kind of sad, I'm going to play this part, it's going to be kind of sad, this part, whatever, all in one go. And if you said that, I'd be like, I don't know about that, but they pulled it off, and I was definitely in it for all the way through.
Yeah, for a movie that was a comedy in essence, they really delved into some serious emotional depths on the characters. Traumatic past experiences, hang-ups in their life and why they are the personality they are from traumas, deep desires that they have left unfilled and how it affects the way that they relate to other people. And some of those come to resolution and some of those don't, but they got into some really heavy stuff, and in between all that, the theater was laughing almost 85% of the movie. That's a tremendous... We talked about them walking this tightrope, before, and how they did the first movie and how they kept the fans engaged. That is a tremendous tightrope to watch, to go back from intimate details about Drax and his daughter, who he clearly misses so much, to then telling a joke about how ugly the Mantis is, just hideous. Just hideous to look at. But that's good because now you know who loves you. It's so hard for pretty beautiful people to know who loves them. So it's like all this really deep stuff in between laughing hysterically. What an amazing thing to achieve from a movie.
Yeah, I mean the comedy sequence with Groot bringing back the different things from the room, where he brings back the badge and the this and the that and the toe.
A toe.
The toe. Oh my God!
Tell me you guys have a refrigerator full of severed toes somewhere.
I couldn't breathe at that point. And then they finally have Kirk from Gilmore Girls bring him the right fin. He gets on it, and then he kills everyone on the ship. And
oh man, that scene with him and Rocket, yes, Yondu and Rocket, that was so good.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the like visually spectacular scene of them walking down that walkway, and you've got all the bodies of all the other Ravagers that betrayed Yondu falling in slow motion around them. Groot getting revenge on the guy that poured alcohol on him.
That's so good.
And then payoff on Taserface in his name when he calls the Golden People and gives them Yondu and is like, just make sure he knows who did it, Taserface. And then she laughs too, just like everyone else did. Just honestly, this was such a well-crafted movie.
And then it was choreographed to music, and it wasn't like it was just music playing in the background. Rocket specifically requested that they turn on some tunes, So it's not even like they're walking around and there's this music playing, to keep the audience interested. The characters know that the music is playing. That's the best part. It's so cool. And even in that scene too, you talked about, Groot was bringing back all this wrong stuff. Well, who brings back the right stuff? Is the guy's name Crackle? Is that what it is? Like, do I have that right?
I think it is.
I kept hearing that. I think it was Cracklin, something like that. Cracklin Oatbran, I don't know. But he brings back the right fin, and what does it lead to? An emotional apology about betraying the captain and kind of solidifying their bond together, that I'm your man, And
I didn't mean to do a mutiny.
Right? And then even that, they make that funny just by the way he phrased it. But this whole comedic sequence leads to a very minor but very emotional scene that then goes on to another big, fantastic, choreographed fight scene with music, with comedy, all in one, deftly directed sequence. It was just perfect. I can't keep saying this enough, how completely perfect almost every element of this movie was.
Yeah, and then you get Peter Quill so excited to meet his dad, and he gets superpowers, and he says he's going to build so much weird stuff like Pac-Man and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get some of the payoff of that in the fight at the end when he actually builds Pac-Man.
To eat him, yeah.
I'm going to build an 80-foot Pac-Man and a Skeletor and Heather Locklear. I'm going to make some weird shit, man.
Yeah, that line. I'm going to make some weird shit.
And I'm glad they took his superpowers away at the end in a real, like, visceral way. I hate the power creep that comes along with this stuff, where they have to get more powerful to defeat bad guys, and then the bad guys have to get more powerful. And so it just becomes so unrealistic.
Yeah, they made him mortal for ongoing features and stuff. So even before that, what I was going to say about Yondu, leading up to that whole thing, they show this scene brilliantly crafted as well, with Howard the Duck cameo in there. They show him and how he was, disowned from the Raveners and all that, and how separated they are, and how much he's alone with his crew, but then even his crew didn't really like him, or they were questioning his leadership and things like that. And that pays off in the end when, I'd even expect that to happen. They made me love Yondu. I was like, oh my goodness. Yep. And that sort of happened.
So sad when he dies. Mary frickin' Poppins died.
Yeah, he was a stellar guardian. It was amazing. Yeah. And at the end, when they come back,
it got heavy at the end there, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
It got real heavy, and even before that, you're starting to see, the relationship in Quill's eyes, like he's rewriting his history. You know, knowing now why Yondu didn't give him over, he's kind of rewriting his own history and saying, wait a second. Yeah, this guy was tough on me. Yeah, this guy made me do stuff that I didn't want to do. But he prepared me for life in the way that he thought I needed to be. And he's starting to come to the realization that he was a father figure to him, you know? So then, like, when they're coming down, I mean, I think we should just go over some of the funnier quotes too. But, like, you know, they're floating down from the sky when everybody thinks they're dead because the ship blew up. He's holding the arrow and he goes, dude, you look like Mary Poppins. And of course, nobody gets his Earth references, which I love too. It's so funny because sometimes he tries to explain it, sometimes he doesn't. But in this case, he goes, "Is he cool?" You know, and he goes, "Yeah, man, he's cool. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." You know, and that's gonna be one of the most memorable scenes, I think, or the visuals that people are gonna have from this movie because it's so funny. But it's just a little misunderstanding back and forth, but a way of Peter just acquiescing and going, yeah, man, I want to make you feel real good about yourself right now. And Yondu did. You can tell by the way he said it. You know, he felt so good about himself in that moment, which we come to find out is really rare for him, you know, all the mistakes that he feels he's made.
No matter what their flaws, these are good people.
Yeah, essentially.
You know, Peter's a good person. They're all good people. Yeah. They may be murderers. They may be criminals. But they're good people.
But they've all gone through stuff that is so far above and beyond, you know, normal to put themselves in that position. And for the heart that each one of them has to still shine through is kind of inspirational, you know, I think, to people, which is really cool. A really cool way to do that.
Yeah, very much so.
Super cool. And going into Act 3, I think we finally figure out what's wrong. Mantis kind of showed that there was something a little wrong with Ego. We don't really know. And now it's like, oh, this makes sense. Like, yeah, I thought there was going to be like some other big bad that comes in and Ego was going to be, you know, this trophy father that Quill needed and stuff. But really, he just wanted to eradicate the entirety of the universe to be just him. And he needed more sons, or he needed something else. Than
he needed
just his
more
being
power.
Celestial. He needed more power.
You know, good on him, but I didn't see him being the bad guy. Call me an idiot, but I didn't see that coming.
I'm with you. I really didn't think that he was going to end up being the villain in this. And what a great name for him. For the name to be Ego.
It's very descriptive. It's you know, very much like old school naming where the name is what they are.
It seems obvious, but I mean, he is the essence of Ego. He wants the entire universe to be him. I mean, is there anything more egotistical? Is there a thought more egotistical that could exist than that? You know,
not at all.
But he also didn't want to be alone.
So let me ask you this question: first movie, I think the funniest character to me, the one that just made me laugh the hardest, was Rocket.
Okay.
Who were the standout character to you, or was the standout character to you in this movie?
Drax.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was definitely
Jules?
Drax.
Yeah, I'm going to say Drax, but they knew that everybody was going to love Baby Groot.
Of course, yeah.
So they constantly, they ran with that. And
they
I
did.
Definitely enjoyed it.
He didn't speak much, and so I didn't feel like they had to translate him much, and I felt like he was less funny for that. But I think it was definitely Drax with a second of Yondu.
Yeah, I think Yondu was a cool character. Seeing his evolution was awesome. But the thing that I loved about Drax is, you know, we first meet him, and this, you know, goes to the evolution of these characters. We really see them grow a lot over the two movies. We first meet him, sarcasm, humor. He gets none of that. Yep. Zero of it. And now the sarcasm part still gives him problems, but you see he's developed his own sense of humor, and it's ridiculously perverse, you know?
It is, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, thinking...
She has just given away your darkest secret.
Do me! Like, he's so excited to have that horrible thing happen to him, too. You know, or when he's, like, laughing because he needs to go in a beast to cut it out from the inside. And he's in there just chopping away at it, laughing like, this is the funniest thing I've ever done. I'm in a beast and I am destroying it, you know? But yeah, everything he does, he laughs mirthfully over. And it's usually something that nobody else would take joy or pleasure in. So they played that up really, really well.
Very much so.
And it was just a fantastic movie overall.
Yeah.
So
I think it was the best movie I've seen so far this year.
No arguments here.
I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So what would y'all give it? What do we give Fast and the Furious? Do you remember? I think like an 8 or a 7.
I think it was probably an 8 or a
Yeah,
7.
8,
Probably
8 and a
an
half,
Give
I
this a
think, is
10.
where we went. Yep.
Yeah.
10.
Kevin's a 10. Tim?
Yeah, this is an 11. This is a movie I will watch over and over again. I mean, I've already done that with Guardians of the Galaxy, but yeah, this is a movie I will watch over and over again. I will own on Blu-ray, and I will see it probably hundreds of times in my life. I feel very comfortable saying that.
Definitely a 10. I enjoyed it greatly, and if somebody else wants to go see it, let me know, and you're in the San Antonio area, I'll definitely go with you, and I'll sit there and watch it again. So,
William, we're talking to you,
movie.
buddy.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll go watch it with you, man. Don't worry. We'll be tall as fuck together. So what are we gonna do for next week?
Shit.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 podcast.
Oh, man.
Let's talk about it some more.
Next week, let's do.
What about that idea I talked about yesterday, Kev?
The reaching out to people.
Yeah. We have fans.
You know what? Let's do that, and let's because we may or may not get some, but let's ask our fans to give us topic to talk about.
So
Sure.
you could do a couple things, I think. Either give us like a couple of just maybe a quick topic that you'd want us to rant on. Hopefully we could do a couple of things, or like a question you want to ask us. And this could be a question about our subject matter, video games, movies, TV shows, a specific movie character, TV show, video game character, whatever. Or ask us questions about us. I don't care. Throw out some questions, throw out some little things you just want to hear us rant on.
We'll answer anything.
We want to kind of let you take us on our direction next week a little bit after the nerdy news.
And then second to that, suggest characters. We're going to do like a nerd fight type of thing. We'll pit characters from different things against each other and debate how they're going to fight and win and come up with that.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
All right.
So definitely follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Nerdy Things Pod, Nerdy Things POD, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's how you can contact us, nerdythingspod@gmail.com if you want to send it that way. nerdythingspod.com. That's where you can see a bunch of nerdy stuff. We post some stuff for the week, and we post articles and all that. All the articles that we talked about in Nerdy News were probably posted on one of the social media sites, Facebook or Twitter, not so much Instagram, but yeah, that's where you can find all the stuff we talk about during the episodes.
We're going to be working on Instagram, though, folks. Keep your eyes on that Instagram. We've got some ideas for it.
Very nice.
I'd like to thank Adipsia for the use of his song Friends Don't Let Friends Go to TGI Fridays. You can hear more of his music on adipsia.bandcamp.com.
The Stoic.
He just released the album called The Stoic, and no, I'm not Adipsia. It is somebody that I know.
All right. Fantastic.
All right. Thanks, guys. That was a fun episode.
Thanks, everyone.
He may have been your father, Quill, but he wasn't your daddy.